Touch base with his key economic advisors on possible long-term effects from this market meltdown. We expect that Senator Obama will address consumer concerns any minute now at his event in Grand Junction, Colorado. His running mate Joe Biden weighed in earlier from Michigan.
The disturbing news that the crisis that you've been facing on Main Street is now hitting Wall Street, taking down Lehman Brothers and threatening other large financial institutions. Take a hard look at the positions John McCain has taken over the last 26 years of his career on the economy, on health care, on foreign policy. And you'll see why I say that John McCain is just 4 more years of George Bush.
So he called George Bush, he called John McCain Bush 44. Let's get right to Carly Fiorina at the McCain campaign headquarters. Carly, the McCain campaign senior economic advisor and former executive of Hewlett-Packard. Carly, what about Joe Biden's contention that John McCain would be 4 more years of George Bush?
Well, Joe Biden obviously hasn't been paying very close attention to what John McCain has been saying for at least 6 months. First, way back in February, John McCain called out the fact that we needed regulatory reform. Specifically, the SEC hasn't done their jobs here. He has been calling on Wall Street to step forward. We have a whole set of managers on Wall Street who made a series of complex financial bets based on the faulty assumption that housing prices could only go up. We had a set of regulators who were asleep at the switch. John McCain has used that language for at least 6 months now. In the short term, he has said, appropriately, that the most important thing is to protect American taxpayers and to protect hardworking Americans' savings and assets. But in the medium to long term, the most important thing is to make sure that we reform the regulatory structure here so that regulators are doing their job instead of simply standing by and letting the inevitable happen. The failure of Fannie and Freddie was inevitable. Those companies have had a pattern of management lack of transparency and accountability over many years, and in fact it is Democratic Congress that has let that go on for the last couple years. So I think John McCain's been way out front on this in saying that we need regulatory reform, we need more vigorous oversight, we need to hold management teams accountable, and we need to make sure that above all the American taxpayer and hardworking Americans are protected.
On the point of Fannie and Freddie, of course, it was Republican Congresses for years and years who also put up with it, because that was sort of a bipartisan entitlement, if you will, with Fannie and Freddie. There were lobbyists on both sides of the fence there.
Well, I certainly agree with that there are long-standing patterns of abuse between Capitol Hill and Fannie and Freddie, and you're correct, it has been a bipartisan situation. However, by the way, John McCain has said that over and over again. But I think if you look at the last 2 years, it has been clear in the last 2 years that we were facing a situation where the housing bubble had burst, that would have a clear impact on a whole host of institutions, not just Bear Stearns, not just Lehman Brothers, but as well Fannie and Freddie. And the Democratic Congress and the appropriate subcommittees that are overseeing these institutions stood by and did nothing for way too long.
Carly, let me ask you about something that John McCain said that is getting some attention from the Obama camp. He said today in Jacksonville, Florida, there's been a tremendous turmoil in our financial markets and Wall Street. People are frightened by these events. Our economy, I think, still, the fundamentals of our economy are strong, but these are very, very difficult times. Of course, the Democrats are seizing on him saying that the fundamentals are strong on a day when, there's economic wreckage all over Wall Street. Do you want to put it in context?
Yes. In fact, John McCain went on later in the day to say that what he was talking about there very appropriately is that the strength of our economy lies in American workers and American businesses, particularly small business. The American worker continues to be the most productive in the world. The American worker continues to be the hardest working. The American entrepreneur continues to be the most innovative in the world. These are the fundamentals that remain strong. Unfortunately, Washington regulators let the American people down, and Wall Street let the American people down by assessing risk in an inappropriate way and, frankly, letting greed get in the way of responsible management. It's not the American people's fault here.
There have been a number of ads on both sides. Let me play one for you, which is the campaign ad from the Obama campaign about some of the people running the McCain campaign on lobbyists. I think we've got this queued up.
His campaign is run by lobbyists. Now we find out McCain's White House will be lobbyist-run too. He just picked a Washington super lobbyist to plan his administration. Does that sound like change to you? We just can't afford more of the same.
Now, we're talking about the announcement that Bill Timmons is going to run the transition if you are elected. You want to talk about the lobbyist issue and whether that is smart at this point?
Well, of course, as the Obama ad and as the Obama campaign conveniently ignores, the McCain campaign has had the most stringent rules in terms of conflicts of interest for many, many months now, and has challenged the Obama campaign to match those rules. To the best of my knowledge, they have not done so yet. All of the specific lobbyists that the Obama campaign has called out at this point in time have stepped down from their firms long, long ago, which they clearly know. And I guess I would just remind your viewers that recall the whole, we were just talking about Fannie and Freddie, recall that Jim Johnson, for example, was a close-in advisor to the Obama campaign, former CEO. Recall that Franklin Raines is a close-in advisor. In other words, the Obama campaign has surrounded itself with many, many people who are part of the issue in this current financial crisis. So I think this is a little bit like the pot calling the kettle black, and I would once again step forward and say people ought to take a look at the rules around conflict of interest in the McCain campaign, and I would challenge the Obama campaign to match them.
In fairness and in defense of the Jim Johnson-Obama connection, both of them separated themselves from it the minute that that issue was raised. But that said, you're the first person from the McCain campaign that I've been able to ask, what did you think of Tina Fey as Sarah Palin?
Well, I think she looked a bit like her. I think, of course, the portrait was very dismissive of the substance of Sarah Palin, and so in that sense they were defining Hillary Clinton as very substantive and Sarah Palin as totally superficial. I think that continues the line of argument that is disrespectful in the extreme, and yes, I would say sexist in the sense that just because Sarah Palin has different views than Hillary Clinton does not mean that she lacks substance. She has a lot of substance.
Okay, for the record, thank you very much, Carly.
Thank you.